Good.
Anything in there that you want to talk about?
Some of those I learned just, from day-to-day life, but the thing about balancing your checkbook, it's actually quite important because, well, first of all, to balance your checkbook in any language is important, but in terms of dealing with numbers, and I noticed this, what I find is even my parents who've lived in this country for almost 30 years, they still, when they think in numbers and they're calculating things, they still do it in Russian. And when you're in a foreign country and you're at the bank teller's office or you're buying something, the person is going to be speaking to you in their language, and they're going to be rattling off numbers in their language. They're not going to be doing it for you in English. And if you're in a rush and you're trying to count money and the person is giving you money, you want to be able to do the mathematical calculation very quickly in your head in that language. Especially like if you're in some country with really high inflation or have like Turkey, where $1 may be worth like 1,000 Turkish lira or something like that, where there are lots of zeros and the numbers are really big. It's important to be able to calculate really quickly in that language. And so it's important to do that when you're here and you're just doing your day-to-day calculations, whether it's you're at the grocery store and you're trying to estimate how much everything's going to cost in your shopping cart before you pay at the counter, or whether you're balancing your checkbook. It's an exercise that your brain needs to be used to. Another fun one is that if you're in a meeting at work and you're just bored out of your mind and you don't want to be doodling because people can tell that you're just drawing in your notebook, if you start writing notes to yourself in that other language, and you're sure that the people next to you don't speak that language, you can start writing like a shopping list. Let's say you're learning Chinese and you start writing a shopping list in Chinese. The people next to you, they have no idea what you're writing. You may be, you can tell them, oh, I'm writing notes about the meeting, but actually you're really, figuring out what you need to buy for dinner that night. And it's nice to have that kind of secret language where you can, take notes for yourself.
Well, and speaking about shopping, it occurs to me that so many of us where we live here in California, that there is a lot of shopkeepers and people working in stores that are multilingual. And so there's, and they would probably happily talk to you in their language and help you and support you. So even if when you're counting out change or you're asking questions and, you could ask your rudimentary questions or count out your change in a different language and probably get some help and correction and so you asked for it. That we just have huge opportunities surrounding us all the time.
You're so right, Vicki. And it's interesting. I remember being in college, a friend of mine said, oh, I was thinking of going to Costa Rica, learn Spanish, do some immersion program. And I said, you're living in California. You have your own immersion program here, and it's free. Why do you have to go on an airplane to go to Costa Rica? Just when you go to the grocery store, if you happen to be in a grocery store where the shopkeepers are speaking in Spanish, speak to them in Spanish. Do everything in Spanish. Go do your shopping in a part of the town where everyone speaks in Spanish. Watch Spanish TV, listen to Spanish radio. So you really don't have to leave the country to be able to immerse yourself in the language.
You certainly don't. I mean, you could volunteer at school and work with kids. I mean, there's just unlimited ways that you can encounter other languages, and you can even be helping other people at the same time as you're helping yourself learn a language.
For sure.
Is there any section of your book, Language is Music, that you'd like to read from?
That's a good question. I would say, I think actually we covered most of the stuff.
Okay. Yeah. And, well, there is a section at the back of your book, because I want to kind of wrap up this book and get on to the next one, but there is a section at the very back of your book where you have contest tips and stories. Why don't you tell us about that?
Sure. So I ran a contest from February to April where people could read my books, both of the books online for free, and then they could contribute their own tips, whether for learning languages or traveling the world on a budget. And I had several tips, and there's a woman in my town, Cupertino, her name is Anita Goldwasser, and she contributed tips and stories, actually, both books. And her story was about traveling in Mexico with her children, and she wouldn't let her children speak to her, and actually her children one of her kids wanted to buy a drink, and her daughter was 9 years old, and her daughter wanted the mother to buy the drink. And the mother said no. She just gave her the money, and she made her daughter go buy it herself. And so then her daughter felt really comfortable, started to feel comfortable speaking in Spanish. And her tip was that if you're traveling with your children, encourage your children to speak the language of the country they're in. Even if it's just a couple of words, they need to start getting into that mindset.
It's probably really empowering, too. I said I would think it would be very empowering also for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's a sense of confidence where they feel that they can communicate without their parents. You know? And then another thing is that when she was traveling with her kids, when they were kids, they met some other children in Mexico, and they stayed in touch. And now her grandchildren have gone to Mexico and stayed with this family that they met like almost 40 years ago. So that was one of the things that, like you said, it's empowering for the children to make their own friendships there and then keep that going. Even when they come back to their own country and they keep in touch by email or phone or whatever.